Hey y'all, welcome to a new video. So today we're going to be continuing our Swatch Fest. This is most of my eyeshadow palettes. I have a few more, but they're larger and we'll swatch those maybe in the other half of this video. But today we're going to focus on these guys. I have been on a journey with palettes. And this is where I have landed, and I'm actually quite happy. I will talk about my palette journey maybe in another video, but right now, let's get dirty and let's get these guys swatched. We are starting today with this lovely little palette. This is the Utopian Dreams. It is one of the Mothership palettes from Pat McGrath. It is Mothership 9. And this was a gift from a friend for my 40th birthday. So this palette has a lot of sentimentality to me, but it is just a stunning palette. This was my first experience with Pat McGrath's baked or special shades. And they're beautiful on their own, but when you mix them with a little water or some Duraline, they really come to life. So there she is, all swatched out. That's a single swatch per shade. I love this palette. It's so much fun. I find myself doing the same looks over and over again with it, but I don't really see that as a problem. Following in Mother's shoes, we have, this is the Venus in Fleurs Luxe Quad in Voyeuristic Vixen. I always forget the name of these. They're the names of these palettes are so long. And then this was one of her holiday palettes from 2022. This is the Celestial Nirvana eyeshadow palette in Nude Allure. We're gonna do these both on the same arm because we have plenty of real estate. Let's do the quad first. One thing I have noticed about Pat McGrath is she does tend to do the same stuff. Like that white shade is also in Utopian Dreams. That being said, it is my perfect inner corner highlight. When I don't know what else to inner corner highlight with, I use this white. It's got a nice little dip in it. You can kind of see that. So this one is flaky, but it doesn't have this pink to orange shade is flaky, but it doesn't have that dry texture that the baked shades do. She always includes a shade like this in her palettes, and I know people complain about it, but I love it. It's one of, this is a shade that's so complimentary on me. And this brown, this khaki, we have another Bedroom Eyes brown, is just beautiful. The quality on these shadows is really nice. What I will say is sometimes I have a hard time getting a full look from this palette, but that's just because I like to use mattes to build up my look and then go in with the shimmers and the really spectacular stuff on top. Okay, time for the Celestial Nirvana eyeshadow palette in Nude Allure. So I know that these palettes got a lot of hate on social media, and fair. The packaging is not the same. The quality is different. I don't think it's bad though. I really think that this is a nice little palette. I will say some of this matte shade is really hard to work with. I don't tend to use it. I usually just leave it alone. I use the shimmers. I travel with this palette a lot because it is so small, but it's just packed with really beautiful eyeshadows. This peach is one that I go for quite a bit. The purple, I'm going to challenge myself to use more in 2024, But this bronze is one of my favorite eyeshadows. It is another bedroomized brown. It's a little warmer, a little peachier, and just is lovely. So here we have the Quad and Voyeuristic Vixen, and this is the Quint in Noodalure. So that is all of my Pat McGrath eyeshadow palettes. You're gonna see some more of Mama Pat in my face palette video. Okay, let's bring these guys in. Let's work on NARS and then we'll talk about Mario. So here I have two NARS palettes. I don't think these will both fit on one arm, so we'll do one at a time. This is the Extreme Effects palette. I bought this palette used and I freaking love this thing. It's weird, it's grungy, but I absolutely love this palette. Now there are some shadows in here that I don't love. This one is kind of a throwaway, but if you want something subtle, if you're looking for a really, really smooth inner corner highlight, this shade is one of my favorites to build a look out of. This palette encompasses my raisiny, grungy, but still not too much gray aesthetic. And it makes me so happy when I use it. It is a little bit old. It came out a couple summers ago, a couple years ago. And this one is not performing as well as I would like. And the thing that annoys me about NARS and their palettes is that they are all limited edition. So if you really love a palette, you can't replace it with a newer palette. However, this neon pinky orange is sick. It really is. So here we have another one of my OG Raisin eyeshadows. We will go into further depth about my love of Raisin in the future. There we go, look at that. And then it's a black. I don't use black. I really don't like black eyeshadow. But there is the palette. All nicely swatched. I'm going to keep my eye on this shade because it really is not performing the way that I expect it to. Like, it's not binding to itself. If I want to build it up, it's just kind of dusting off. You see that? So that may be a problem in the future. Once again, a lovely NARS palette that was limited edition. I bought this past summer, so it was a year old when I bought it. And loving the NARS formula and this color story. I saw this online and I was like, I don't want it. It's too gold. It's too yellow. And I saw it in person the summer it came out and my brain went, oh, it's beautiful, but I couldn't afford it. I found this palette on Poshmark or Mercari, one of the resale sites. And one of the nice things about NARS palettes being limited edition is you can usually look it up and find out when it was released and know the age of the palette that you're getting. I think one of the things that we don't talk about enough is that makeup goes off. Makeup goes bad after a while. And it's our responsibility as consumers to gauge what we buy with what we can use. And we all have makeup that we love, that we don't use, but it's still something to keep in mind when we're shopping Black Friday, shopping Cyber Monday, the Sephora VIB sales. I just love the nuance of this palette. You can get some very basic pretty looks, but you can also get some looks that have some impact. This shade did have to be repressed when the palette arrived. It had popped out of the pan. And then I went and visited some family this summer, and this one popped out. Fortunately, I was able to kind of cradle it and push it back into its home. But since then, oh God, that is a raisiny brown, and I love it. I love it. I love it. I had to press that shadow back into the pan, and now this palette is on the no-fly list. Look at that. Look at that gorgeous. I don't even know what color that is. It's like a lavender taupe, not purple. The purples get me. And then there's that one, which I've always just kind of found unimpressive. But overall, that is quite a lovely palette and a lovely color story. Overall, I would say that this palette, if you can find it used, I would be wary because it is going to be a couple years old. Makeup by Mario. This is the Ethereal Eyes palette. I bought this summer when it was re-released. I rarely have palette FOMO, but this is one that I was just mad at myself that I did not get on board with. And then it was re-released and I snatched it up. I was going to take this with me to Philadelphia for the makeup artist to use when she did my makeup for my brother's wedding. And I decided I didn't have the space in my bag to take it. And lo and behold, it was the palette that was open on the table when I went in to get my makeup done. She did a beautiful job. That is a weird shade. It has a lot of gray, but it's got a lot of gray, it's got a lot of silver, and it's got a lot of taupe, which makes it very cool toned. Oh, look at that. That is a matte brown. There you go. There is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette. It's just, I mean, I can't really argue with any of those. They're all so beautiful. We've got three little guys here to talk about. These Rowan quads are both cream, so I'm going to do the powder first, and then once I've wiped off my arm, I do the creams. This is the only thing you're going to find in my collection from Makeup Revolution. This is from the collaboration they did with Clueless. This is the Thai palette. Like, I am a 90s baby. Clueless came out when I was in middle school, and I really love the red tartan. That was what initially drew me to it. And then I opened it, and these two mattes, like, we're going to swatch the entire palette, but those two mattes are like my basic non-pink starter shades, crease shades. I feel like so many palettes are giving us this goldy champagne, doesn't really want to commit to anything, just wants to be shiny. It's a little yellow for me. It's got a little too much gold, but it's still pretty reflective. This red I wear when I want to look vaguely threatening. Honestly, like if I'm having a rough morning, rough day, a little bit of a threateningly red orange eyeshadow can work wonders. So like I said, the shimmers in this palette are not really my jam. They're not something that I'm dreaming about or remembering or specifically reaching for. However, the brown and this peach really sell the entire palette. They're worth the $4 I paid for this at TJ Maxx. Look at that. Look at that. It looks like it's going to be a very orange mustard yellow. And instead it's got a lot of peach and a lot of warmth to it. I really enjoy just having this palette in my collection. It's the one that I look at and I'm like, okay, you're silly, but you can stay because you bring me joy. You make me smile, trigger my nostalgia. All right, Rowan. Rowan these are the two Rowan palettes I have. This is the Eyes on Me and the Mood Forever. So Mood Forever I've had for a couple of years. Eyes on Me, I want to say I got 2 years ago. But for creams, these are incredibly sturdy. I love these creamy iridescent shades that these palettes do. They don't look like much when you swatch them. They really don't. I mean, that just looks vaguely shimmery. But when you put the rest of the palette with it, it just works. It just works. That brownie burgundy purple. I live for that kind of a shade. And this, I mean, look at those fingers. There you go. Some nice smudgy, smeary post-swatch fingers for you. And that's the entire palette. If you are someone who's good who doesn't mind doing your makeup with your fingers, who doesn't mind things looking a little messy, who doesn't mind eyeshadow that creases and just kind of looks worn in throughout the day, these are great palettes to look into. They're expensive, but I think they're worth the price. I really do. Moving on to Eyes on Me. I love this shadow. I will just smear this all over my eyelids and be done with it. This terracotta is a little bit difficult for me to wear. I don't know if it's because it's so dark or because it just doesn't mesh well with my skin tone. I don't know. But this shadow, I believe this is the original Rowan formula that has tons of glitter, tons of sparkle. So these first four are the Mood Forever, and these bottom four are the Eyes on Me quad. Aren't those gorgeous? They're so pretty. I want to smash them all on my face right now. By the way, y'all, I'm filming on my phone. So if my phone footage is looking as good as I think it is, I have two bigger guys to swatch. So we have the ColourPop It's a Mood palette. This is essentially storage for ColourPop singles. Some of the shadows that came in here I've decluttered. Some of the little ones from other ColourPop palettes that I've kept, I've put in. So this is not the full complete color story for this palette. I also have the Hindash Monochromance palette. And man, this palette surprised the living daylights out of me. I am stunned at how much I love this palette and how much I reach for it. So we'll do this one first, and then we'll do the It's a Mood palette. Okay, this one's going to be tough to swatch because it's got these gradients in it. I'm going to do the lightest shade, the middle, and the edge, and the other side, so that we can actually see what the gradient looks like. I love these like top four shadows. I don't really use the pink that much, but that strawberry red, man, when strawberry girl makeup was all the rage over the summer, I was using that red constantly. It's another one of those that can look vaguely threatening if you use it in the right way. What I love about this palette is how thoughtfully, I don't reach for the blues or purples, but all the other shadows I use quite a bit. I don't know if I've ever actually swatched the blues. They look like blues. All right, there we go. There is Hindash Monochromance. I don't need to explain why this is a great palette. I really, I really don't. It's just kind of the proof is in the pudding. You've got 6 pans that have light, medium, and dark and can be used for literally the entire face. Before the It's a Mood, we're gonna do my composite Natasha Denona palette. So these are Natasha Denona shades that I have saved from the Lila palette, from the Cranberry palette, from the Coral palette. There was one more, the Peak palette, which was a BoxyCharm exclusive. I've been using those as singles for the longest time, and I finally got decided to depalette the Lila palette and just use it as storage for the Natasha Denona shadows that I really enjoy. So we're going to swatch this guy out. This cream shade, like it's almost done, but I don't think of it anymore because I just use my face powders when I need a cream blending shade. I love this shadow. I just wish it was truer to pan color. If you look at how dark it is in the pan and then watch how lightly it swatches, and it doesn't build up the way I would like it to. It's getting a little crumbly as it gets older. It's still absolutely beautiful. So yeah, I can't tell you which shadow came from which palette. I don't remember. I did keep one of the 5-pan packaging in case I just want to throw together a 5-pan instead of taking this entire palette. That purple, look at that purple, is a little crumbly, but I would rather have a shimmer or a metallic be crumbly than be streaky like the pink one. I mean, that's a matte. It's not a matte I use a lot. I do this and Blaze by Cleona. You layer those on top of each other and you've got yourself a party. This is one of my favorite matte shadows. It's this beautiful peachy mauvey beige, I guess is the right word for it. Beautiful peachy matte. I'm going to have to compare the performance of this brown to the brown that I decluttered, because if that one is performing better, then I'll keep that one and I'll just pop this pan out. That purple's getting these mattes, these two, I believe these are original Lila palette shades, which is why they're getting dry and a little streaky. So that is this Natasha Denona palette. I do love it. And I need to reach for it more. I forget about it. And that's another reason that I do these inventories, is because I want to get my fingers in my makeup, feel how it's performing, and also remember why it's something I wanted and why it's something I've kept. I may have to do this in 2 or 3 batches because this is a big palette. It's a Mood from ColourPop. This is a really interesting and weird but beautiful palette. Every time I go in here, I find something new to explore. I just have to figure out how I'm going to fit the whole thing on my arm. Look at those. Those are ColourPop. Those are like budget. But I think I may be looking to declutter this guy because I'm not going to use that kind of a yellowy orange. I love this greeny brown. It's harder for me to wear, but it's gorgeous. There is the first row of 6. I love that shade. It's another one that's getting a little dusty. This one, when I build single palettes, when I build my own palettes out of my singles, that shade goes in. These are magnetic. They're very easy to pop out and put in your own magnetic palettes. If you didn't know that, all of ColourPop's palettes. Look at that glitter. Look at that. I have high-end glitters that don't perform that. I've had high-end glitters that don't perform that well. The berry is a little crumbly and a little streaky. That's 2 rows. So I'll do a 3rd row down here and then do the rest of the palette. Or I could swatch it on, oh, I could just swatch it on my other arm. That'll be interesting. Even on my pinky finger, like, that didn't swatch terribly. Glitter fingers. There's the first half. And I will try to swatch this. This feels very backwards. I love this shadow. Those kind of bluey purples that remind me of abrasion or grisaille that are just a little toned down. I have to admit, some of these ColourPop mattes, after a while, they start feeling really dry and a little streaky. This blue is just, it's okay. If you're looking for a blue like this, I would seek one out through like Luxie, even Sydney Grace. They do a lot of weird shades like these blues and teals. And I think they would be better suited because they're difficult to formulate. This matte formula with the sparkle, I don't love. We don't love her because once you put the shadow down, you really can't see the sparkle. And if you're using it like you would a matte, it's gonna not be seen. That shadow I love. I love it. Love her. Look at that green glitter. Look at it. It's beautiful. Try and do these last few without smearing the ones on my left arm. There you have it. That is the whole palette swatched out. I've had this for about 2 years, I think. So the fact that some of the mattes are a little dry, a little streaky, I guess that's okay. It is what it is. I can't really force them to behave. But the ones that are performing the worst are these blues and purples, which I really don't use that often. I tend to use the lighter side of the palette. Let me move this out of the way and you can see the whole thing. Oh, my right arm is not used to being held like that. All right, friends, that was all of my palettes swatched. For inventory's sake, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13. I have 13 palettes. And that for me is enough. It's a very reasonable amount of palettes to own that I can keep in my mind palace, that I can remember. And now after having swatched them, I have a firmer grasp on what I have. I am not sure what's going to be coming up next in this series, but thank you for sticking around. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Take care of yourselves so you can take care of each other, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, friends.